Hello and welcome to an amazing podcast. This is DM Modi and we are talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, a new series coming out this season, and basically, this is a Shonen Jump series, correct?
Yeah, it is.
It's so painfully Shonen Jump. Like, after watching this, if I talked to the original creator and he told me he never read a chapter of Naruto in his life, I would call him a bold-faced liar.
Really? What similarities do you see with Naruto?
So, it has a very similar feel. Like, media has a taste to it or a feel to it, and it kind of has it feels like it has a hint of Naruto in it. There's also the whole, main character possessed by a legendary violent demon trope. You also have, the three-man band, where it's, or four-man group, where you have, the protagonist, the girl, the edgy rival character, and then the eccentric teacher. And...
yeah.
It's weird.
I don't see, I mean...
Hmm?
I don't see necessarily the Naruto I guess relationship. I just think it's just like you said, it's just shonen. Like you see that in a lot of shonen, so I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say if you said Black Clover is a different story, right? But with this I'm it's just typical shonen.
Mm-hmm. It feels like it feels like Dragon Ball Z was a precursor to a lot of modern shonen of the 2000s era. It feels like this has a similar kind of precursor relationship to Naruto, or procursor, or whatever the term is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But for those who are uninitiated, Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, basically about a world where humans live alongside mystical demons called curses, who are constantly at war with humans with magical powers known as exorcists, who fight using their own brand of curses and dark magic. And after watching this, I would say that this had a very interesting vibe to it. This was a very competently constructed shonen that has a very fascinating, chill atmosphere and vibe to it. And on top of really stellar animation, especially in the opening and ending. But I don't have it doesn't seem to have a hook to me.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a major hook I can think of, but I'll let you finish.
I don't know. It just feels like I'm not as interested in the main character as I was with God of High School. And I feel like he has this he feels like he's a passive protagonist and an active protagonist literally at the exact same time. It's so odd to me.
Okay. So when it comes to the hook, I would say the major hook for me is the fact that for all intents and purposes, he is set to die. Now, is it actually going to happen? Probably not, but I wouldn't rule it out because, series have been doing crazy things these days, so I wouldn't rule him actually dying at the end. So to me, that's a huge hook because I don't think I've seen a series where it literally starts out from the jump with the assumption that the main character is doing all this knowing he's going to die, especially in shonen. They're usually aiming to do something do something big and be the best. He's not necessarily doing that. To me, he reminds me a lot of Ichigo, who just wants to Ichigo just wants to protect his friends. But even with Ichigo, it's not like he ever did anything with the sure knowledge that he was going to die. He always intended to win, right? And to survive at the end.
On that, I will say that
to me that makes him a very interesting character already.
So that kind of goes back to what I was saying about the atmosphere, because this has I've never seen a shonen with such I won't call it a bleak. It's is not quite bleak and is not quite nihilistic. It just feels dark. It doesn't quite feel dark. It's
Yeah, it
like
doesn't. And I like that.
it feels very morbid and again very chill. Like it doesn't have the same like over the top. I'm going to be the best there ever was. I'm going to become king of the Hokage pirates. It's just like death's a thing. We all die. Just gotta live our lives the best we can. And I feel like in that, this probably might be one of the more realistic shonens. Like aside from the demons and the split personality, superhumans and stuff. But this still,
and that brings me, sorry.
But again, like I said, this feels like aside with that stuff aside, it feels like tonally, it feels like the most realistic shonen.
Yeah, and that brings me to the other thing you said about how he feels passive, and he feels like both a passive and active protagonist. I agree with you, and I think that's what makes it feel more realistic, because that's actually how real people are. I like the fact that at the end of the day, he is still definitely an active protagonist, but he's not like cartoonishly proactive like like Luffy,
or Naruto.
And he's just like, yeah, exactly. And it's not he's a real person, but like he's a lot like Deku. I feel like like a real person who actually acts like a shonen character, which to me is kind of more interesting than the typical shonen main character. At least now, because I've seen it so many times, right? So that I think that's like the strongest point of the series for me, and that's the biggest hook. And I'm really liking it so far.
Now, my biggest issue... So, I have a huge issue with the main character. And it goes back to the idea of, like, want versus need. Want being the sole drive of the main character to, like, progress the plot or, like, the end goal. And then there's, like, need, where it's, like, what does he need to accomplish said goal? I did not get and another thing that sort of, like, brought up was the idea of, like, knowing versus believing. Like, if you just like tell the audience how bad or how evil this villain is, then they know that person's evil. But if you like show him like murdering puppies or killing babies or being Dio, then you know, like you believe, you feel, you understand that he's evil. And with this, I haven't gotten like, I don't feel a compelling want from the main character. Like, if you look at Naruto, like, you knew he wanted to become Hokage. You believed he wanted to become Hokage. You know and you believe Luffy wants to get One Piece. But we know that his motivation is to, like, follow his grandfather's dying wish. But I don't, like, you don't get a very strong, like belief. Like, my biggest issue with the main character is I feel like if his grandfather never died, this show would not be happening, would not be going on. Like, if his grandfather had survived, like, 2 extra weeks, he would probably have been, like, executed, like, way earlier.
Wait, did you watch episode 2?
Yeah.
Oh, so then, but they kind of, like, addressed that, right? How do you feel about that, then?
Still, like, I just don't, like, I don't feel it. Like, with Spider-Man, you have, like, the whole great power comes great responsibility, Uncle Ben thing. But I just don't... We're told that he is making the active choice to pursue his grandfather's last words. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe it. Like, by the end...
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying...
because, like... Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, if you compare it to, like, something like Naruto, like, you know and you believe, like, based off the backstory of his character, that if that evil, like, sensei didn't, like, convince him to, like, steal the sacred scroll or whatever, he would have, like, Naruto would have eventually done something stupid to sort of kick this all off. Like...
Oh, I see.
And or even the same with Ichigo. Like, you know that like if Rukia never gave him his powers or something, he would have gotten himself into like some sort of bullshit shonen like shenanigans
I don't know
situation.
about that.
I
I would agree with Naruto, completely disagree with Ichigo, but this isn't about Bleach, so I'm just gonna talk about Ryuji. That's his name, right? Or is it Yuji?
Itadori.
Yuji. Okay, yeah, all right. Itadori, I'll just call him that. Oh, Yuji. There we go, Yuji.
Yeah.
So with Yuji, he yeah. In episode 2 though, when the principal is like testing him, at the like by the end of it, like he realizes he says that the reason he's doing this is because he knows he is in a unique position to help people. Like,
right.
you know, it's a 1 in a million power. Nobody else can do it, and he would feel terrible if he didn't. And I think that's perfectly good reason. And I also don't agree about like if his grandpa hadn't died, this wouldn't have happened, because like if his grandpa hadn't died, let's take his grandpa out of the equation, right? He still would have had that cursed finger, and his friends still would have been in trouble, and he still would have gone to help his friends. Like, do you think he wouldn't have helped his friends if his grandpa hadn't died? I think he still would have.
I think he would have definitely gone to help them. I think he would have definitely like eaten the finger and stuff. But I am not sure if he would have just taken the deal to like die right there, or like keep pressing on to sort of collect all the other fingers.
I mean, I think he would have.
Yeah.
To me, I just don't see it that way. I think, to me, it's now when you bring this up, it actually makes me respect the author for this series a lot more too, because it makes me realize he must have thought of that exact thing that you're saying just now.
Right.
And I think he addressed it perfectly in episode 2. Like,
yeah. Like I said,
it would have been an issue if like, you're right. Like, it definitely would have been an issue if he goes the whole time just doing this because it was his grandpa's dying wish.
Yeah. And like I said, I think episode 2 was definitely the stronger of the 2 episodes. That was easily the strongest, because I was watching that. I was literally on the edge of my seat trying to see whether or not like the author like butchers his like, or just like completely flubs this whole character moment for him. And I will definitely say that was a very strong moment and a very well written one.
Yeah. Another thing I want to say about him, the series, and I guess the main character, is that I generally don't like series. Well, that's not true. I generally have a bias against series where the main character is like really powerful from the start, and he's just like stronger, and he has like natural ability, and he has this 1 in a million power. Generally, I don't. Not that I hate those series. I still watch them a lot of the time, but I think this is done in a very good way, because like if you have a character like that, you have to make the character have like a heart of gold, you know, and he has a heart of gold. So I think that's also something I just want to mention, that I think that was done really well.
Because I do like, so he is like he like the main character in this, in no alternate reality or in any alternate situation would be anything else but a shonen protagonist. He is like every single inch of this character screams, I am the main character. And I think my biggest issue with the whole like him being stronger, faster, and like etc. more than everyone else is he doesn't look like it. Like, and he doesn't act like that either. Like, if you told me that, if you showed me, like, if you had him and Jotaro standing next to each other, and you told me to, like, pick out the high school student who has, like, supernatural, like, who has, like, the above all prodigy level strength, who's stronger and better than everyone, like, I believe that a lot more with Jotaro. And that kind of goes back to the whole, like, belief versus no with, like, Itadori. Like, I know that he's stronger, faster, 1 in a million, like, protagonist Jesus son, but, like, I don't believe it. And I think that's literally the only, like, biggest issue I've had with this show so far.
Okay, I see.
Now, one thing I really love is how they're doing the whole, like, inner demon thing. Like, that's always been, like, a strong, like, selling point for me in a lot of media. So stuff like Naruto, Hollow Ichigo, Venom, I am, like, such a huge sucker for, like, that overcoming your inner, like, literal inner demons to get more power thing. And I think they're doing it really well in this. And I think they have established they set up an incredible twist for this. Like, and I don't know if this is the direction they're taking, but you know how they said it was like a 1 in a million chance that he was able to, like, control, like, the evil spirit within him?
Mm-hmm.
What if he wasn't in control? What if the spirit in him was just like, okay, I'm just gonna hide out in this guy's body, let him have control, come out when I need to. That way they'll think I'm under control and they'll just keep feeding me, like, my power. And then when I'm good and ready, I'm just gonna say, like, ha ha ha, you were never in control. This is my show, bitch.
Oh my god. And imagine if his sensei is in on it. Oh my goodness. Oh, that would be so good. Imagine like 1 year from now, we find out that your prediction was correct. That would be crazy. That's such a good theory. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily bet on it, but I hope it happens because I think that's good. I think that's really good.
Also, I respect any supernatural demon that literally opens up with where the bitch is at.
That's another thing. I like the fact that the demon has personality. Like he's funny and like he's also it's not just that he has personality. He has he has kind of a likable personality. He's not just
a villain likable.
Exactly. He's not just like, he is evil obviously, but he's evil with personality. I keep saying that, but you know what I mean, right? He's not like the Ninetales who's just sitting there and just looking evil and being like, "Mwahahaha, oh, you want power now, do you?" You know, like he's, he has something to him, and I think that's good because it'll add a lot more. It'll make the series a lot more fun to like see him, I guess, interact with the demon. It would be interesting if like he becomes friends with the demon or something like that. Like, this could go a lot of ways now that I think about it.
Yeah, but like, if we take out the whole idea of him like just faking, like pretending to be under control, and that is literally how like the status quo is literally what we see it as. Mm-hmm. I feel like Itadori's personality kind of hurts the relationship a lot more. Like, imagine if he was inside Naruto, or like you had an equally like really brash like personality inside of that, and you just had them like playing off of each other. The way it is now, really,
mm-hmm. I don't think that would work, because to me I see that as being like, it's like having two characters that are like the funny character. Mm-hmm. I feel like in that kind of dynamic, you need to have a straight man, right? And like I think it would be too distracting. Maybe if it's a side character, fine. Mm-hmm. But like if it's the main character, it's too distracting if the main character and like the demon inside of him are just like constantly just going at it. It's like I feel like it would kind of distract from the actual story. I don't know.
But I do
maybe though.
But I do think the lack of conflict between the two is a missed opportunity. And I really hope like they do go the route we just previously discussed, because that would be like, ugh.
Yeah.
So hype.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said though, that's a good thing. Another good thing about it is that I can definitely see many different ways that it can go. Like there's a lot of possibilities. And another thing I want to talk about is aside from the curse premise, the other part of the premise that I really like, I just like this in stories in general, is like when the character has to go out and like on I guess, on a quest or anything, like has to go out and find stuff, right? And
Yeah.
like to complete, like, you know, like Goku has to find the 7 Dragon Balls or whatever. Like I
Right.
usually I like those, although Dragon Ball Z kind of, you know, veered off from that. But I like that kind of premise, and I also like school premises. So I feel like this is a really good combination that I like. In general, I don't like demons and monsters and stuff, so that's a downside. But like, it's only really bad when the tone is kind of like dark, and I think this story is not like that. Like Bleach was darker. When I first started Bleach, I actually had a hard time getting into it just because like it just felt kind of dark. But I also like the fact that this has more of an upbeat mood, and the characters are more, you know,
This
upbeat,
has,
and the world doesn't feel gloomy either, you know.
again, it doesn't feel bright and it doesn't feel dark. It just has like this really like grounded, chill atmosphere to it. Like I haven't seen many shows that have an atmosphere quite like this.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I like that part of the series a lot.
Now, how'd you feel about the openings?
Oh, the opening was great.
It was.
It might I'd have to go back and look, but it might be my favorite opening of the year. Maybe.
Like,
What did I watch this year? I think it is. I think it
honestly,
is.
it might, cause like like it isn't a very animated opening, but its art direction and like style is so nice, and it fits
Yeah.
the song so perfectly. Like the visuals in the opening and just the animation behind it, while not like super expressive, and it's the standard opening where you have all the main characters just like strike their character pose and sort of foreshadow themselves.
Hmm.
But just the design, style, composition, use of color, it's all so nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. And the ending, did you see the ending in episode 2?
Oof. That's probably like one of my all-time favorite endings.
It's so funny you say that because literally since last Friday when the episode came out,
Mm.
all over Twitter, all I'm seeing is people are literally saying this is the best ending of all time.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I'm not going to get mad at someone saying that because I would probably at least put it in my top 5.
Same.
But I can probably think of like at least 1 or 2 Naruto endings that would give it a run for its money. So, yeah.
So let me say this. This is probably the set of like of all the years I've been watching anime, this is probably the second ending theme that I've like legit liked and would go and
Really?
rewatch. Yes. It's
There's
this
so many good ending themes out there. That's crazy.
I'm not a big ending theme guy. Like it's
Wow.
this and the ending for Kekai Sensen or Blood Blockade Battlefront. Those are those are literally the 2 anime endings that have me like, this is awesome. I am never skipping this once whatsoever.
Yeah. I have a lot of endings that I like. Most of them are concentrated in Bleach, Gintama, and Naruto. But yeah, I have tons of endings that I like.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say, like, yeah, people saying this is the best ending of all time, I can't argue because it's actually beautiful. It's spectacular. Now that one doesn't count. What were you gonna say?
Oh, go ahead.
No. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna sound stupid if I say that. So
I was just gonna like gawk at how great the animation for that was. Again, like this show, the opening and ending has really great art direction. And I will, if I have to take a shot, I wasn't a huge fan of like the art style of the show, but that's just because I'm really like big on exaggerated characters and exaggerated colors. So I won't say that's bad, but
you would love One
like,
Piece. Just sorry, go ahead.
I probably would. Yeah, they just like learned how to draw a human body, but like this show, like I like. If I had to
so what's an example of shows where you like the character designs or like, you know, the art direction?
JoJo's, Fairy Tail, God of High School had like I liked the art style of God of High School because it had that same like grounded look to it, but it still felt like it had a little bit more color than this. Like, I won't say that it's bad. It's just like not to my specific taste.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even really notice. I mean, the only thing I really noticed was the character designs, and I like the character designs, but I didn't really notice much else about the art that really stood out to me, except for the animation, especially during
The fight scenes.
Yeah, the fighting scenes there. You see, this is one of the best things about the new days of anime, which is that now that they're not like committing themselves to doing like 1,000 episodes at a time, and they're like doing it season by season, they can actually put an effort into like going hard on the animation, and they're doing that when it matters, like for the fight scenes and stuff. So that's good.
It's honestly really nice. Good. So, one thing I do like to point out is like the difference in Sakuga style from this and God of High School. God of High School basically used a form of rotoscoping where they mocap like the actors, place them into a 3D scene, and then move the camera around them to get the nice camera work, and then they just rotoscoped over top of that. This is just like fresh squeeze, no trace, straight up Sakuga, and it was really nice.
Huh. So how do you tell? How do you tell the difference?
It's based on how they move. Like, if you look at God of High School, a lot of their close quarters fight scenes, they all feel extremely sturdy and very solid.
Yeah.
When you watch, or even a scene from like something like Demon Slayer, but when you watch this, the end, like, they're all flowing. There's so many like smear frames. Their bodies are like going all over the place. They're a lot more erratic, and they're not moving in a way a normal human would move. Like,
I see.
In God of High School, they're either just like using the raw or like freshly made motion capture data and either speeding it up or like slowing it down. The way they were accelerating and decelerating this is not something like a normal human could do.
So, do you think one is better than the other, or like what do you think about that? Because to me, I couldn't even tell the difference. It all looks good to me. So, what do you think?
So, I like the God of High School method because it's more efficient, but I would have to say that this version is better. And the reason I say that is because of the whole uncanny valley issue. Like, there were a bunch of scenes in like God of High School where I was like, okay, the mocap got turned on. Okay, the mocap's off. Okay, the mocap's back on. And it's a little jarring. With this, it doesn't feel like an on and off switch. Or, it's like...
I see what you're saying.
You know when we were watching, like, Kamen Rider, and they had those scenes where everything was, like, live action and everything just went full CG?
Yeah.
That's what God of High School at its worst feels like. Okay. With Jujutsu Kaisen's Sakuga style, it feels more gradual. So instead of like jumping from a 0 to a 10, you're going from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., to 10, and like, and you're either doing like that smoother... more. Yeah. Even if like that whole, like, even if the transition's like 24 frames or like in an instant, you can still feel like there's a transition between the two styles.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to keep a lookout for that in the next episodes, because that is pretty interesting to think about. And I feel like I didn't notice the difference, but when you described them to me, I feel like I would also prefer the way Jujutsu Kaisen does it. Yeah.
Plus with Jujutsu Kaisen, you have a lot, like, again, every frame is up to the artist. Every frame is hand built for it to work for that scene, and that's why those moments were so. That's why those moments were so quick and so short in this episode. as opposed to
Oh,
something like in
God of High
God of High
School, they
School.
had like, yeah, they had much longer sequences.
Yeah, because they're just like literally tracing on top of the 3D scan data.
Huh. Okay, that's
Or
interesting.
even like they may not like you could even argue if you're like if you know how to do your if they're good at their compositing, and I wasn't paying much close attention to the backgrounds, but using the God of High School method, all you would literally have to do is just trace over the characters fighting and just leave the 3D backgrounds in, and then boom.
Hmm.
That's what UFO Table does lot of their backgrounds in 3D and just draw on top of them. And that's kind of why I sort of like the motion capture approach. Like, that's why it's kind of a hard decision for me, because if you use the motion capture approach, you can have a lot more Sakuga. That's like an
Yeah.
8 out of 10. But with this, you get a lot less, but at a 9 out of 10. It's like, would you rather have 50 Wendy's burgers or 10 Five Guys burgers? If the people who are listening to this know what Five Guys is.
Yeah. I mean, I hate Five Guys, so I would say I
Or
would
like,
say 50 Wendy's burgers,
or
um,
like,
but yeah,
would you
I
rather
see what you're
like,
saying though.
yeah, like, would you rather have like 50 servings of fast food or like 10 gourmet meal servings, sort of?
Yeah. Yeah, and I can definitely see a good argument for 10 gourmet burgers, because especially in anime, it's a lot of the time there isn't really even a necessity for Sakuga
Mm.
until you're like getting into action, and that's when you need to deliver. So you don't really need to be like, going high all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yep.
But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope. How would you rate it?
Oh, there
Okay.
is one more thing I want to talk about actually, which is
Yep.
that um, I like this series a lot, and I'm so excited to keep watching
Mm.
and probably even read after the anime ends.
Mm.
But I feel like one thing that's up in the air for me it's just the first two episodes, so I'm sure it'll change. But one thing that's
Mm.
up in the air is the fact that I don't think there's been like a solid villain established yet. I
Mm.
like the way the series is going, and I'm excited to see like the new characters and like how they end up gathering all the cursed fingers.
Mm.
But if it becomes the kind of series where it's monster of the week, then I might have a problem with that. But I doubt it. I doubt it will. I don't think it's gonna get boring, because
Yes.
obviously it didn't get canceled, so I'm sure I'm sure it's gonna step up even more. And the
To
other
be
part of that
fair,
is
Black Clover
Mhm.
hasn't been canceled yet, so
Well, Black Clover. I don't think Black Clover is bad. I think Black Clover, like, I think especially in
right,
this specific aspect that I'm talking about, Black Clover actually does a good job of establishing villains and all that. And
right.
another thing I'll add on to what I said, is that I also am not sure how I feel about it. Like, I don't necessarily think I want the final boss or villain or whatever, like the main antagonist, to be this I forgot the name, this guy that they're
Sukun.
trying to recapture, like this curse that they're trying to
Yeah.
recapture all the parts of. I want there to be something more. I want there to be another like opposing party with like a plan that's trying to like destroy the Jujutsu
Yeah.
association or something. I know it sounds cliche, but that's kind of what I want to see. But
See,
yeah,
if
I
I
mean
was,
it's very early on. I'm sure, and like I said earlier, there's many ways it can go. So
if I was putting my theorist hat on, they mentioned that like in folklore, he was Sukun was a a demon with two faces and four arms.
mhm.
So there's that probably hinted at like there's a second like entity or like version of him going around, and that might be the opposing antagonist who's also like going out trying to like collect the fingers for himself.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Someone else who's also trying to collect the fingers. That would actually be perfect. Like, that's the last piece it needs. That element of like competition that you gotta have in shonen. You know, that would be good. But also something I just thought of too is the fact that his grandfather wanted to tell him something about his parents, but he wouldn't let him, and then he died. So, wouldn't it be interesting if maybe Yuji is the descendant of that cursed guy that died, that now they're trying to bring back so that they can kill him? Like, then that would also explain why he is able to, to control him in his body and not like die.
I disagree with that. I guarantee you that his parents, his like mom, he had the same mom as like as Gon Freeze. Like, that is a literal, I don't care about my parents. They don't exist. No one, like, forget about it.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think so, because here's
okay,
why
let me ask you a question, and this is just going back to other like shonen anime. When was the last time you ever heard Deku talk about his dad? And how long did it take before Naruto started asking like hardcore questions, or like the identity of his parents ever became relevant to the plot?
And that's exactly why I don't think that's what it is. Because usually in anime or manga, whatever, when the parents are not relevant, the parents are not mentioned until they become relevant. But the parents were mentioned right from the very start, which makes me believe that they are actually relevant to something. You see what I'm saying?
See, I disagree, because I feel like the writer is just sort of thinking, and he's like, okay, I have to basically establish like this guy's parents. So it's kind of like a sort of reverse unestablishment. So they just mention them to like say that they exist.
I don't see that, because listen. If that was the case, if I'm the writer and I'm writing this, I know who my audience is. My audience knows what's going on, right? They know what kind of thing this is. If I didn't mention the parents, the audience wouldn't give a second thought about it, because that happens all the time. Why would I feel the need to mention the parents if I didn't have to? The only reason I would feel the need is because maybe the audience might be questioning, he's with his grandfather, but where's his mom and dad? That's the only reason. But then if that's the case, if that's it, then I would just replace the grandfather with one of the parents and have one of the parents be the one that dies, and there you go. I really feel like there's something to it. There's something to it, because I just don't see why you would mention it. As a shonen author, I have no idea why you would mention the parents in episode 1 unless you had a plan for them. Like, if you look at Hunter x Hunter, like he meant like his dad is brought up from the very beginning, and that's because his goal is to find his dad. I feel like when parents are brought up, it's because they're relevant. But I guess we'll see.
To counter that, whenever his mom was brought up, he literally just had the exact same reaction where it's like, I don't care, bye.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the other like counter to that is, if you again look at Naruto cared to know about who his parents were. Itadori doesn't, which if the protagonist doesn't care about something, why should we care about something?
Okay, but it's to me, it's all about the timing. It's all about the timing. Naruto cared later, right? Or maybe he cared from the beginning, but it wasn't mentioned. Like, it just wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even thought until later. To me, though, I feel like since this was explicitly brought up at the beginning of the episode, I feel like there's something there about his parents. Like, I need to tell you something about your parents, and then he dies right after that. It's the only BS part of that to me is the fact that if it's so important, you're not just gonna like you have to tell him. Like, it doesn't matter if he doesn't want to hear it. You have to tell him. I think the fact that, and also think about it. Do you really expect that we're gonna go this whole series without ever getting any mention of his parents again?
Yes, we've been doing that for like 100 years in Pokemon. Parents don't exist in Shonen. Don't you
Well,
realize that?
but that's what I'm saying. When they don't exist, they literally don't exist and they're not mentioned. But when but like when right? But when they're there, they're explained, right? Like with
Right.
Pokemon, he left his mom and he went out to travel the world, and that's that. That's the end of the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've seen a situation where a parent is brought up in the beginning and the character and also comparing it to
Hunter
the
x Hunter.
comparing it to the Gon situation is kind of weird to me because it's different context. With Gon, the context is bringing up his parents in the context of, or bringing up his mom in the context of uh, his aunt is the one who raised him, and he doesn't care who his mom is because his aunt is the one who raised him. With Yuji, we don't know the context. We don't know if that was the reason. Like, it's
You see,
like
I'm looking at this in sort of a meta narrative. Like, by the grandfather mentioning his parents and then Itadori, like, saying that he doesn't care, it doesn't matter. I feel like that's the author telling us that, yes, he lives alone, but his parents don't matter. Like, if it was something like he's on his deathbed and he's like, after his big speech about like protecting others and living like to use his strength for others, he was like, and your parents, and then he died, then I would assume that his parents had some sort of like relevance to the plot.
okay, all right. I guess
We'll
we'll
see
see.
by the end of the series.
Yeah. But yeah, so you asked what I would rate it. I would give both of these first. I would give episode 1 an 8, and I'll give episode 2 an 8.5.
I would give both, like, my experience watching both these episodes, if I'm being I'm gonna have to say a 7. Like,
Both of them a 7?
Like, collectively. Like, if you took out if you took out the great animation, I would probably say 6. I would say that this
Wow.
is a very competently well-constructed shonen for me, but it doesn't do enough to have it, like, really shoot out and stick out to me. It's
Okay.
it is, like, if you wanted to see a perfectly well-constructed, airtight shonen, this is where you start.
Yeah, and okay, this will be the last thing I say, which is when I was watching this, I'm really starting to understand now because I've been like keeping up with Shonen Jump pretty closely for like a couple of years now. And I've seen the series that have failed and gotten canceled, and I've seen the series that have survived and are staying, and I'm starting to see like the similarities. I'm starting to see what it is that makes them succeed. And a lot of the time, usually it comes down to the main character, I think.
Right.
But that's a whole lot other conversation. But yeah, I'm actually surprised that you gave it that low of a score. So here's an interesting question. I know we were supposed to wrap up, but if you had to compare the first 2 episodes of this with the first 2 episodes of God of High School, and ignoring what, like, in retrospect, like, God of High School, how you first saw it, not knowing the wreckage that was about to happen. Well, which one did you like more? I know you rated it higher before when we first watched it, but maybe that's changed. So what do you think?
Definitely got High School.
I'm actually surprised to hear that, but maybe I'm not actually. I don't know. God of High School was more it was more upbeat and action oriented, which I know that's the kind of stuff you like a lot. So maybe it makes sense. Okay, cool. So thank you for watching. That's been our review of the first 2 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen, and tune in next week.